Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Peahce Interview. Today's Peahce Interview spotlights environmental activist and bookworm Jagravi Singh. Fueled by her passion for the environment, Jagravi works to spread awareness about the global climate crisis. Being involved in organizations focused on diplomacy and global change, including the Model United Nations, she uses social media as a vessel for making a difference in the world. Join Jagravi and interview lead DeAnn as they dive into terms and statistics to know, getting involved in activism, and healthy and sustainable actions that can help us make a big impact. Stay till the end to hear the two continue the conversation and discuss more about their personal experiences and viewpoints on the topic within the interview. In 3, 2, 1.
So first off, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Jagravi. I'm originally from India, but currently I'm in Vietnam due to my parents' jobs. So I've been here for more than 10 years.
Wow.
And yes, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so I've been to many international schools, which I've mentioned to you earlier. So yeah, that's some basic part about me. So something else is that I'm currently a high school junior and I'm an Instagram blogger. I post about the climate crisis, how we can do our best to curb the effects of it, such as riding our bikes every day or eating more vegetables. So that's all on my blog on Instagram. And I'm also a podcaster. I do podcasts on the Sdgs. I've interviewed teachers, students, and some local organizations on their thoughts and opinions, what they think about it, and how it can be achieved by 2030. Something else is that I recently became an activist on the TLG, which is the local globe organization. And I've done things such as fundraising, and I'm currently working on a poster for spreading more positivity, especially as more people are getting into work and school, transitioning from the holidays into the school environment. So that's what I'm currently working on. And lastly, I'd like to mention that I'm a huge supporter of the United Nations. I've gotten involved in activities such as Model United Nations. That's an activity that I really enjoy doing. And recently I became a chair, such as a moderator. That's basically what chair means. So yeah, I'm pretty much very involved in Model United Nations, and it's an excellent activity for many people to get involved.
Yeah, it does definitely sound like it. And it's really cool that you're in high school and you're doing all of this. It's really awesome to hear so many people who are in their youths who are so involved in activism and promoting important issues like that. So that sounds really awesome. We officially get started in the interview, I was thinking we could do an icebreaker like I talked about earlier. And I wanted to ask you if you think you would be a sauce, or what sauce would you be, or what condiment would you be, and why?
So I'll definitely pick tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce?
Yeah.
Love tomato sauce.
Yeah, I love tomatoes. I have it every day on my food. Nowadays I'm eating vegetables instead of meat, so I always have tomatoes.
Are you vegetarian?
Yes, I'm vegetarian.
Ooh, I just started being vegetarian actually. Just cool.
Yeah, that's great. I encourage many people to become vegetarian. Now as we see more effects of the climate crisis going on, and we see more science of it, so we should definitely be changing our habits, get it used to the new activities or new habits.
It's awesome how you were able to tie in your icebreaker answer with what you're trying to promote today. Something awesome I noticed. And all right, let me just look at my questions here and we can go ahead and get started. So like you mentioned in your introduction, you have attended several international schools, and that has broadened your view of the world and has made you find solutions to some of the bigger problems of our day. Could you elaborate more on that and perhaps give some examples of solutions you've been able to conceive?
Yeah. So every school that I've been to so far has had activities for me to get involved in, such as I mentioned, Mall United Nations, and there's also the Sustainability Club. And something else that I joined is GIN, which basically stands for Global Issues Network. So through those conferences and activities, I got to learn more ways on how we can solve the big problems of our day and also learn more about them, the science behind them, and also through debate, through peaceful diplomacy, which MUN is all about. It's actually like you're at the UN, standing there and actually peacefully debating your issues and also, getting along with other countries and trying to make solutions with them. So those activities which the schools provided me with really broadened my mind up and really showed me how we can peacefully debate, how we can really get behind the science and start to take really small steps to achieve simple, like big problems such as the climate crisis. So now it comes to my solutions that I'm currently taking. So what I've learned is to take eco-friendly water bottles, which my school is currently promoting, that every student has to bring metal or eco-friendly water bottles. Yeah, like those right there. Yeah, so I'm always using them, I recently just completely stopped using any plastic water bottles in my home. So right now I don't have any plastic water bottles. I'm just using metal water bottles, and I'm also eating more vegetables, as I mentioned. They're healthy and they help you a lot in your daily lives. They can make you stronger as well. So I know some people can argue that, these meat products are good for your proteins, but you got to see the bigger picture. You got to see how, how just eating one piece of meat, that costs a lot of water, to make it, and how they're processed in the markets. It's not healthy. So you've really got to look at the bigger picture here. So definitely eating more vegetables. That's something I'm getting used to every day. And also I'm not really traveling nowadays. I know it's like the COVID situation here that limits travel, but I'm just personally thinking of not traveling too much because whenever I do travel, I would just use public transportation. Yeah, it's cheaper and it's also way more, it can also reduce your carbon footprint significantly than using private transportation, which can cost more. So I'm taking every step to change my habits, and I've also started to do virtual travel using the VR or using some other apps which can actually take you to so many other places, rather than just taking a flight, going to those places themselves, which can cause a lot of carbon footprint. So yeah, so I'm definitely changing the styles to, use my part to make the world a better place for the future. And the international schools that I've been to have helped me significantly by providing me the resources, the tools, and also the mindset to think about how we can solve the big problems by just doing simple steps to achieve them.
Another thing you talked about in your introduction and in your request was why you hope to have an interview with us to get more people to know about the SDGs and what can be done to reach them. What are they? Why is it so important people know about them? And could you talk about how your podcast ties in with them?
Sure. So the SDG stands for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, otherwise known as the 17 Global Goals. So they're important because it raises the problems that our world is currently dealing with, such as poverty, the climate crisis, gender inequity, or even, corruption in our government. And it can tell us how our world needs to become more peaceful, equitable, and most importantly, sustainable. This relates to my podcast because my podcast is called The Race to 2030, and the goals are actually due by 2030. So that's the time all the member states of the United Nations have to have some sort of solutions to the problems that they're dealing with, whether it's poverty, the climate crisis, or getting renewable energy sources. So I thought about how can people achieve these goals by 2030. I was just curious what people are currently doing to achieve them. So that's why I thought of doing a podcast to interview people on their thoughts, opinions, and views on the goals. So I've interviewed, as I mentioned, teachers, students, and local organizations on the steps they're taking. And I got a range of answers from them. Like some of them surprised me with their answers, and some of them actually told me the real truth that, it can be hard to achieve these goals by 2030, seeing that right now our world is facing many, many problems. It's not just, a one-way path to achieve them. You've got to take like different steps to achieve them. You can't just go directly to achieving them. You have to, actually change your ways. And they actually told me the hard truth that, yeah, these goals are good. They're very effective and they're really useful for us to make the world a better place. But you got to look at people's mindsets and actually view the world as one human world, like what they're actually doing. Yeah.
I just realized that 2030 is in less than 10 years. So that's daunting a little bit.
Yeah. And especially after the United Nations gave its code red for humanity, that just alerted me. Like, I really started to convince my friends, eat more vegetables, really to limit their carbon footprint, start walking more to places.
A lot of those measures I'm realizing are good for you too. Like you said, eating your vegetables, walking, biking. It's also just like healthy for you, healthier lifestyle. But it can't be.
Yeah. Yes, it's very effective for our bodies and for our mindset as well.
Yeah.
People talk about mental health nowadays, just limiting all these activities that keeps your carbon footprint higher and doing something that can actually limit your carbon footprint can really help your mindset, your mentality. It can make you feel more positive about yourself and about the environment you're in. And I've personally experienced that by doing more biking recently around my apartment and around where I live. It's really helping me a lot because, I used to have a lot of anxiety before, didn't feel good because of what problems there are. There were like so many problems the world is dealing with. And I thought, how can I, some of my friends won't even change their habits, of making the world better. So, I used to feel really angst up. But then once I start to really do some activities that help me, such as biking, it just improved my mentality so much.
So the next question I have for you is, how do you think your experience as an activist in your youth differs from older generations of activists?
So, as you know, young people nowadays are very tech savvy. They go online. They go on Facebook, on Instagram, and just they can search up anything nowadays. And young people are like really, taking actions by striking. The huge climate strike early that's happening like every Friday nowadays. It's like people really are listening. They really want change and they want it fast. So it really differs from the older generations. And for me personally, it opened me up to more online resources. And that's how I got involved in TLG, which is the local globe organization. And I worked there as an activist. And it can be very effective during lockdown since we're at home and the only resources are like online. Like you have to go online to, get your products. So when I was part of the TLG, which is a youth organization, and it's also virtual, so it's a virtual youth organization, and they give you these activities that you can literally just do on your computer. You don't have to like go outside and actually do a strike, or to be safe, you can go online and actually do something. So when I was part of this organization, I did an online fundraising activity, and it was called Lunch and Learn. So I got to talk to people online, virtually, when they were having lunch about topics that they enjoyed talking about. And I got to listen to many people speak up about mental health, whether it was the financial crisis they're dealing with or some other issues they just want to talk about. And I got many responses through that. So yeah, there are many other activities the local Globe has, and I really encourage people to get involved in that organization because it can really help you get involved in the wider world and actually do things right on your computer. You know, you don't have to go outside. You can just make change sitting down and on your computer, make a poster or whatever activity they have. You can actually just make real basic change through sitting down on your computer. So yeah.
Yeah, I think in our age of activism, social media definitely has a big part in helping out with it. Like you can easily press a button, share information, and it's also very, very convenient just because you can do it anywhere you want, like you said. And I was curious, so can anyone join the local Globe? It's not just something at your school or anything like that?
It's like an independent youth organization. So, you know, anyone from around the world, I think right now it's just mainly teenagers who are like in their junior, sophomore, or senior years. So those of you who are in your junior, sophomore, or senior years, you can definitely go to the local Globe, and on their website they have like an apply page, and you just have to fill up an application, you know, about who you are and why you're so interested in joining the organization. And then a couple days later, the leader who is based in Chicago will check it out and then will give you a response. So definitely, if you're interested and really have a passion for making the world a better place, a more equitable and sustainable place, you can definitely just join the organization and make your voice heard and take part in many activities that can make change.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I know you mentioned a climate strike that happens every Friday. I haven't heard of anything like that, so could you elaborate on that?
It's not happened in my place, but around the world, like in my home country of India, it happens a lot every Friday. So people would basically strike every Friday about the climate crisis and urge the government to start changing their habits, you know, give more sustainable policies, bring more sustainable policies, and definitely, you know, make the planet better in terms of how it is now. So I don't really, you know, keep up to date with it, but then like whenever I open my Instagram, it's like shows this big climate crisis in Berlin, in London, New York. So all the major cities have the climate crisis, but in my town, I'm not really so sure. But definitely all around the world it happens, but I don't think some countries don't have them.
For my next question is, the next question I have for you is, what are your goals for the future?
I definitely want to continue righting the world's wrongs, such as bringing climate to justice, bringing gender equity to our workforce, and to make education affordable for everyone. And I hope to do so by either entering into the law where I can make policies and actually work in government perhaps, or joining an organization that does so, you know, that actually can you know, sponsor people to, you know, go to places and actually speak up on how the world can be made better, or do activities, you know, such as I'm doing now with the local Globe organization. So yeah, I hope to do those. And, you know, something I'm really passionate about is the UN. So one day I hope to join the UN, you know, either as an intern or as a member. But, you know, I'm just really passionate about the UN. So I hope to work there one day.
before we did this interview, I looked through your Instagram to see who you are and what you do, and I noticed that there are some pictures of you at UN conferences or like youth conferences for the UN, and it was really amazing to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy doing UN projects and UN such as MUN, Model United Nations.
So on a more global scale, what do you hope can be achieved in the future?
For the world to become more sustainable, eco-friendly, and to definitely achieve the SDGs, which I hope they do by 2030. Otherwise, there'll be another set of goals the United Nations will propose to the world. But I really hope the world can take steps to achieve the SDGs. I know these are hard times, but I really hope they're doing it, if not physically, virtually, they're taking steps to achieve them by either making young people speaking up or making more people involved in government so that people's voices are heard, and definitely to eradicate poverty from our world, because that's just, a really horrible problem going on. Everyone should be able to achieve their dreams, have the right to education. So that's what I stand for, and I definitely want the world to achieve them. And as a matter of fact, countries are already taking steps to better our planet. So just before this interview last night, I was just searching up what steps countries are taking, and I found some interesting facts that I would like to share. So recently, a Norwegian company has made the world's first zero-emission cargo ship. So
wow,
I found that really interesting. And also, I found out that the Tokyo 2020 Olympic medals are actually made out of recycled electronics. Yeah.
So there's no actual gold or silver in it, or is it mostly electronic metals? Do you know?
I'm so sure about that, but they're definitely made out of recycled electronics. So, it might seem like a gold medal, but then, they wanted to make it more eco-friendlier, more sustainable, because, you can find waste like everywhere nowadays, because there are like 7 billion people in this planet, and definitely you'll see people, using up all their resources and just throwing them out into the river or into like any like ocean or waterway. So it's like found everywhere. Not everyone can just throw it in the trash bin because sometimes it gets overfilled. And but I like how the Tokyo Olympics sent out their gold medals, sent out their silver, bronze, because they're trying to make it more eco-friendlier and definitely keeping up with being sustainable. Something else I have to share is that scientists have recently developed an eco-friendly alternative to plastic made from fish waste, and this was created. It was created by a Canadian team at the Memorial University of Newfoundland. So they were definitely really creative on how to make reusable plastics, and or nowadays I think it's called bioplastics, but I found that really interesting how they're using fish waste to make an alternative to plastic.
Yeah, it's like they don't need to gather any extra materials or make anything more. It's like natural resources. So for a fun question, since you said in your interview request that you like sharing book recommendations on your podcast, I wanted to ask you, what is a book everyone should read, or what is your favorite book?
Yep. So on my blog, actually on Instagram, I posted many books that I've recently read or have read, and some books I'd like to encourage people to read are Margaret Thatcher's autobiography, and I've read that. It was a long book, but I've really enjoyed reading that because it told me a lot about her life and what she went through to become Britain's first female prime minister, especially during the late 1970s and like and especially lasting until the 90s. So that was like really cool. Like she became the first female prime minister of Britain in a time where there was no online resources, and there still wasn't much equality, So I found her story really interesting, and for those who really want to find out more about her and about what she went through, or just about the world in general during those times during the 50s, because she tells about all her life from she was born in the 1920s, so until the 1920s to 1990s. You can just read up on what was going on in Britain, or what was going on in the wider world. So for any historic fans out there, they can definitely check this book out. And something else is, I read about Hillary Clinton's book called Stronger Together. I know it's an old book that came out during her campaign trail, but I just wanted to, see what she wanted to achieve and how she was going to achieve them, because, I'm a person who is really interested in policy and also about, making change for the better. So I went to check that book out, and I found it really interesting on what policy she wanted to make and how she was going to lead her team to make it. So for anyone who is interested in policy, or how to make laws and how to work with people to make our world better, they can definitely check that book out. Recently, I finished reading Barack Obama's memoir called A Promised Land. Yeah, this was also a long book, but 900 pages long, I think. So it took me quite a while to read it, but eventually I made it to the end, and it was great. Yeah, it was great. It was amazing. I really enjoyed reading it. This man who was born in Hawaii suddenly became the president of the United States, And also he told a story about how government, it's not an easy job to do, and how there are many crises, not just one crisis that you face, inside your office, that you get laws to sign. You've actually got the world, and you've got your own internal problems to deal with. So it's how do you solve them? What do you do? And he tells this really well, how he just been so steady, so calm, and dealt with all those problems, step by step, because it's you're not just dealing with one big problem, such as the climate crisis or eliminating poverty. You're dealing with hunger and security, and also dealing with the Middle East. How you're gonna
a lot of issues.
Yeah, a lot of issues are on your plate, and how do you solve them? So, but he tells it so well. It's he's definitely my person to go to whenever I need to make a resolution when I'm at the MUN, and also about how to speak diplomatically, because I'm still learning, and he's definitely the person I'll just read up on.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, especially since like you said, it's not just a few things you have to worry about. It's a lot of things, and it's also on a national scale, and it's also, you have to consider people's opinions, or you have to think about what's best for everyone, but also have to weigh in people's opinions in a way. So yeah, and it sounds like it'd be helpful for you too, since you're planning on going into policy and diplomacy. I don't know how to pronounce
diplomacy.
Thank you. Yeah. That's pretty much it for our interview. Do you want to give your social media accounts, your podcast name, your blog, and do you have anything else you'd like to say before we end the interview?
Yep, I'd definitely like to say more words. So my social media account is Jagravi Singh 2030. You can find me on Instagram there. And my podcast is called Race to 2030. It can be found on YouTube. Just search up the name and you'll find it there. I also have a playlist on my channel of all the episodes or the goals and who I talk to. So you can definitely check out my channel to see more episodes and who I've spoken to. And definitely some last words. I just want to give some words to all the people that may be watching this. So there will always be dark times in our world, but what matters is whether you look at the bright side. This will enable you to get more motivated, creative, and resolute. Subsequently, you will start to make real positive impacts on our beloved planet called Earth. All right. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that was so sweet. Make sure to follow her Instagram and her podcast on her YouTube. And yeah. Oh, I also wanted to ask, this is kind of random, but do you listen to BTS? Because they were at the UN in New York.
Yes.
So I was just,
Yes. I just love all their songs. They're an advocate of, mental health and of children's education. Like, they've done so much good in our world. And I just love listening to their song. Whenever I listen to them, I feel like sing along as well. And also at times, when appropriate, dance to it as well. So, I just love all their songs. They're all really catchy and just so interesting. And they're a really good band, for what they've done so far.
Yeah, good music and also good message.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite member?
Oh, well, I actually like all of them. I don't really choose favorites. I just listen to their songs, so I'm just staying neutral with all. I don't really have one favorite member, but I definitely just like all of them. When I'm really asked to, choose a person, I'll definitely pick RM, but besides that, the group as a whole is doing a really good job right now with what they're doing, especially last year when they inspired the world, to just keep staying positive, even though it's a dark time with the pandemic going on, a financial crisis. But they've told the young people, to still keep motivated and to still keep hoping and trying, and even at the UN, I think it was RM who said it, that most young people nowadays are like losing hope, and because there's like lockdowns and so much uncertainty in the world. But he said that you have to keep, looking up and keep looking more at the innovations and keep progressing towards a better future. So I think, they're a really good group, for what they're doing to inspire the youth, especially, to stand up, continue to do the good, and to always be inspired.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be you in the future, just presenting at UN conferences and
I hope.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining us, Ravi, and thank you everyone for watching. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, my school doesn't have as much activities. Like, we do have MUN, which is Mall United Nations.
Yeah, we have
that. Also. Oh, you had that too?
Yeah, I didn't join it though, but I kind of wish I did. But we had it. Yeah,
it's a fun activity. You get to debate diplomatically. You actually get to feel that you're in the real United Nations. Because there are like so many other countries around you, and it's like a different kind of language you use, like a more formal vocabulary. So like last year I was like the leader of my MUN club, and and I had to like make the newbies start to understand the vocab, and it was really hard for some people because getting into like Mall United Nations is not really easy because you have to learn the vocab and you have to know the structure, how it's like. So I had a hard time trying to teach the newbies the vocab, and and telling them what it's like being a delegate, a representative of a country. But then like once people are like having the interest and having the flow of it, they'll definitely get the vibe and know how to do it. And I found this interesting course called Turning Climate Anxiety into Positive Action. And that course gave me a lot of insight on how we should think positive about our world and know that there are already some changes being made, and how really, these simple, small steps that we take, such as, going outside for, a bike ride, or just using public transport or eating more vegetables, can really help curb the effects of the climate crisis. So yeah, that course just, opened my mind a lot on just how simple, small steps can just, boom our world for the better.
Yes, I think I remember what I wanted to say earlier in the interview. I was going to say that I thought it was really great to see more corporations take action towards being more sustainable and eco-friendly, because I feel like a lot of the weight can be put on us as individuals to do better. And by using metal straws and biking, which is efficient on a more small scale, but I feel like corporations definitely should have a bigger part in maintaining a more green and eco-friendly environment. Like, I thought it was really interesting to hear that a company uses fish waste to make the bioplastic, and also just measures like that. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, there's so much like dark news going on. Like, when there are always these people doing these wrongdoings, but it's always, there's always a time to think about the positive, and you must also appreciate the things that people are actually doing for the better. You shouldn't always like view the world as one negative world, that this world is like totally going into like a mess hole and it's not working. Yeah, and some people are just like thinking of finding another planet. So that's totally fine. You can find another planet, but then aren't you gonna solve the world's problem as well? Or, you should try to fix the problem, right now, by doing like such small things. Start changing into using metal water bottles, and perhaps eliminating plastics from your home, eating more vegetables. So just taking these small steps can like help the world even so much.
To stay connected with Jagravi and her environmental activism, follow her Instagram blog at Jagravi Singh 2030 and listen to her podcast Race to 2030. Thanks for watching, and peace out.